One of the things that we know, for those of you who are listening to us by way of internet, one of the most bewildering things today there is to be a man. One of the things you have to understand is that it's hard to fulfill all of the expectations that are placed upon a real man. One of the things I need you to understand, Deacon, is that when it comes to a worldly man, there are very little standards that you women hold us up to in the world. That's how you got with some of the crazy men you were with, because you didn't have any standards in the world. So because you had no qualification, let me tell you this. When I got ready to go to school, every college you just can't walk into and say, I want to go to this class. Because the college says that you have to have standards or qualifications to determine whether they will allow you to attend their school or not. Well, that same thing needs to go for women, because this message today are for men and the women who love them. Amen. And so what you have to understand is that if you are going to be a woman, you have to have some standards in your life about the men, and the men need to qualify if they're going to be in your life. Because before you start coming to church, if a guy liked you, he drove a nice car, he was qualified. Before you came to church, if a guy was working with you at work and he had a job, he was qualified. And because you had no standards, a lot of people got into your life that should not have got into your life, and they were not qualified to take you where you were going. It's mind-boggling at times. It's mind-boggling because men oftentimes have trouble with what is expected of us and what is called for us to be as men. It's easier for a man to be a man in the world because the world standards are low. But it's harder to be a man when it comes to the things of God. So the world has different perceptions of what it means to be a man. One of the things the world says is, the world said a man is someone who wears pants in the family. Number two, the world says that a man is a man if you count the number of children he has. If he has a lot of children, then that makes him a man. Well, here at number three, some of you women say, well, I judge a man by his machoism. So if a man is tough and he wears a towel in his back pocket and lets his pants drag from his behind, then you say he's a man because he's macho and he's tough and he walks around in some Timberland. Y'all ain't hearing me. And so a lot of women ended up with a man and he had no other qualifications except for the fact that he walked hard around the house in some Timberland. And because he was macho, that's all you were looking for. And then when you needed a real man, all you had to look at as was his macho boots that were sitting in the because that's the only thing you asked him for. And may I say to you, Mother Lee, if all you want is a man is a roughneck, then don't be surprised when he can't pay the rent. Because that's not one of the qualifications you wanted. You said you wanted a roughneck. And that's what you got. Come on, somebody. Amen. But I'm telling you now, you need more than a man walking around in some Timberlands and kicking the door in and playing Tarzan to be a man in your life. I ain't getting no help in here. And so it's easy here now for the world to give a man to a woman, because the world says you are a man if you have a tendency to have a job. And it's some of you all's fault because you told your daughters that a real man is a man with a job. So when they got a man and he got a job, and you said you got somebody now, you thought having a job meant he was going to give them money. And he took his job and bought him a new Chrysler. He took his job and bought him some new clothes. And you thought that having a job meant that he was going to give you some money. I wish I had the right people. But he in the shop more than you because he's still getting finger waves. He in the shop for 4 hours and you in one chair, he in another chair because you getting micro braids and so is he. He getting his hair all braided. I ain't getting no. Amen, somebody. You getting braids in your hair, he getting braids in his hair. Amen. You and him fighting over the mirror in the morning. You fighting over the hair dryer, he fighting over the hair dryer. I ain't getting no help in there. Amen. But you got a job. And so if you listen to your crazy mama, if you listen to your crazy auntie, if you listen to, because that's all they wanted back then. 30, 40 years ago, they said a good man was a man as long as he had a job. And then what you didn't want to do is you didn't want to go to your mama and tell your mama about the black eye. Because as long as he had a job, she covered up the black eye. As long as he had a job, she covered up the mental abuse. As long as he had a job, she covered up the physical abuse. As long as he had a job, she covered up the verbal abuse, being called nothing. And you told her, but you don't leave a man. Why not, mama? He's a good man. How do you know? Look, he got a job. Look at somebody and say a real man. I've been counseling, I've been preaching for a long time, but I want you to understand that's why today women are confused. Women are confused today because many of these women that are in our churches and in our world today, many women today have never had a real man. All right. And when you've never had a real man in your life, you have problems. Because many women today have problems, and I'm telling you now, they have problems connecting with a real man. Because the problem is, some way or another, I don't care, when you really get to counseling women, 7 out of 10 women, some kind of way, their problems are a man.
Oh, wait, come on, teach Bishop.
7 out of 10 women's problem is a man. You don't believe it. It's either your son, your brother, your chicken, it's your husband, or it's your father. But with most women, 7 out of 10 women, they have problems in their life in some way or another. There's a man attached to your problem. Can I get any help here? And so what happens is that many women today have settled for what they hope would become a man.
Say that. All right.
Y'all not going to talk to me. I got one help. I got some brothers in the back. I got one. See what happens is you thought that the man you settled on was a male, but you took him and you started dating him in hopes that he would become a man. So you really didn't fall in love with him. You fell in love with the fantasy of the potential of what you thought he would be. So the end result is, because you are settled for what you hope would one day become a man rather than a man, you didn't fall in love with a man, you fell in love with a fantasy of what you hoped he would become. I wish I had the right church in here. The problem with that becomes when a real man shows up, many women have difficulties because of the men who they previously settled for. And when a real man comes into your life, you don't know how to function. You don't know how to deal with him because you're so used to dealing with weak men. You're so used to dealing with macho men. You're so used to dealing with irresponsible men that you don't know how to deal with a real man. But the Bible talks about David, and the Bible says David was a real man. What do you do when you got a real man in your life and you ain't got to pay his rent? What do you do when there's a real man in your life and he don't need all the things that your other men... You know, some women I found out have to go on job interviews with their man. Because he never learned algebra. He never learned how to spell. He don't know his social security number. So they sit up there in the office with him, helping him fill out his application. I've been there now. I'm telling you now. I've seen her telling him, no, that's not your social security. That's your birth. I don't get no help in here. I'm trying to tell you now. I'm trying to let you know that's not a real man. You settle for a male who never developed into a man. Can I get any help in here? I need you to understand this. This is important because the men who you previously dated in your life have messed you up so bad mentally that you don't even understand what a real man looked like if he bit you on the ankle. Watch this now. I need you women to understand this because manhood is confusing. Manhood is confusing for men. And I need you to understand if manhood is confusing to men, then manhood must be confusing to women. Because if we